my friends, and welcome to Embracing What is Real. I'm your host, Helane Lipson. Embracing What's Real is the forum to explore the nature of reality and the impact our current belief systems have on our lives. All of our deep-rooted old beliefs are what many of us use to judge ourselves and our actions. Our current belief systems impact every single choice we make. So when we feed our spirit with new, empowering ideas about the meaning of life, the meaning of our lives change. Hello, and welcome to Embracing What is Real. We have quite an amazing show today. Our special guest is Faith Spina, founder of Bridge to Lemuria, a page that is drawing quite a bit of attention. So a few months ago, I saw a video Faith did with Lemurian, and I said, oh my goodness, I must connect with this woman. And as she told her story, as Faith spoke about her life so candidly and all about her great success as a best-selling author, her experience on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and then everything it took to bring her to the place that she is today. As I was listening to her speak, I found my heart was so wide open. And so when she shared about the ancient civilization of Lemuria, I was there. So many of you know Faith as the founder of Bridge to Lemuria. She founded Bridge to Lemuria to support her special mission to reunite and bring together those open or connected to the Lemurian energy or consciousness. Faith is a spiritual coach and a minister of joy, leading extremely powerful events in Kauai. And Faith also does AKASHIC record readings, chakra clearings, and sound healing energy sessions. She is absolutely fabulous, and I'm so pleased to have her here with us today. I'd like to introduce everyone to Faith Spina. Hello, Faith.
Aloha, Helane, and everyone. So glad to be here today.
Oh, I am so glad to be speaking with you. And I guess let's get started. Let's start at the beginning. Before you wrote your best-selling book, which is called Success 2000, Moving into the Millennium with Purpose, Power, and Prosperity, and before your appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show, that's amazing, there were ups and downs in your life. I remember hearing you in the interview with Lemurian talking about that there was even a point where you had to declare bankruptcy, you had nowhere to live, extreme ups and downs. So let's talk a little bit about your life, Faith. Let's hear a little bit about you.
Well, I started waking up a little bit around age 26. I started feeling very dissatisfied with the material world in life. I was making a lot of money. I had a really beautiful home and Mercedes car and all the trappings of quote-unquote success, and I really wasn't fulfilled. And I kept saying to my husband at the time, there's got to be more, and he felt like, why aren't you ever satisfied? And I just couldn't let it be. And so I was searching, and I was wondering, what the purpose of my life was. I didn't feel like I was fulfilling it. I wasn't in alignment with my soul's purpose. So I began to go to a self-help seminar, and I really started to wake up about my belief systems and how I was really programmed into believing certain things that really weren't true. And when I started letting go of all these belief systems, I started to discover more and more of who I was. Well, I ended up getting divorced, and then shortly after that, I did go bankrupt, and I became homeless, which is all perfect in order to help me find myself. Now, of course, at the time, I did not think that should happen. So I was really, really resentful and upset because I thought, here I turned my life over to my higher calling, and all these quote-unquote negative things were happening to me. But actually, as they started to happen, I started to realize that they actually were gifts that I was being given, because they were actually releasing me from those old trappings, this bondage of who I thought I was. My identity was so wrapped up into who I was in my profession. Like, the first thing whenever anyone would ask me, who are you, I would pull out my business card and thought that was who I was. And so, taking all of that away, losing my job, my profession, all of it, it forced me to go in to say, who am I? And where am I going and why? Why am I just taking up space on this planet, or am I really here to contribute, and what am I here to contribute? And it's really funny because back in 1986, when I first saw Oprah, because it was like an AM Chicago program at that time, I said, I'm going to be on her show someday. and it was really funny because I didn't know why, but something in my heart told me that there was a connection there. And so I started to listen to my intuition more and more. And my intuition led me to going to a lot of the personal growth seminars that were available at the time. And little by little, I began to strip away these really outdated belief systems. And then about 1991 or so, 1992, I had a dream. And this dream was more real than this life felt ever. And it was a man who came to me in this dream and looked me in the eyes and said, don't you remember who you are? And I said, no. And he said, you are Lemurian. And I woke up and I was absolutely blown away by the energy I felt, the love I felt, everything. I was so excited. And we didn't have the internet like we do now then, so there wasn't Google or anything like that. So I was asking everybody, what does this mean? What does this mean? And nobody knew. But I wouldn't give up because I knew it meant something very, very important in my life. And so I started to investigate a little bit more, and then someone told me, well, I think Edgar Cayce wrote about it. And as soon as they told me that, I got chills in my body because it was like, oh, my gosh, you mean somebody else knows. If someone else knows, then it has to be real. It wasn't just a dream. So I read his book, and, of course, they called Edgar Cayce the Sleeping Prophet. And that was just amazing to me because I connected to him so strongly. It's like I felt his energy. And so as I began to discover more and more about Lemuria, there wasn't much out there, though, I have to tell you. At that time when I started asking, there was more about Atlantis and so forth. So I started to do a lot of meditations. And that's when I began to remember more of what my role in Lemuria was and what it really meant to me. And so it was extremely an awakening time for me, but it was also a very frightening time for me because, like I had said, not too many people understood it or knew it. So as I started to share my experiences, people didn't understand, especially my family and close friends. And so I found myself going through a period of releasing a lot of family and friends, which to the ego was extremely painful. And so it led me to really go into my truth and not be worried about what other people said because, gosh, if I had listened to that, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Right. Just for all of our listeners not familiar with Lemuria, maybe we can just start. I am gonna delve into or ask you what your role was in Lemuria because you started to touch upon that. But I'd like you to just clarify for our listeners, what is Lemuria? What did you find out about Lemuria? Where is Lemuria?
Mm-hmm. Well, when I first started learning about it and reading about it, it was basically telling me of a lost civilization. and like Atlantis, that supposedly had sunk. And so there was a lot of myth around it. And even though that connected with me, I knew it was way more than that of just being a place. And so for me, in my humble opinion and in my experience, because I do know that Lemuria is different for every person, it's a state of consciousness. And like heaven is a state of consciousness. It's not a place. Places are only places because we give intention and belief to it. So everything is first created with sound and thought. And so therefore, it's a connection, it's a frequency. And as your heart expands, because the heart has a far greater intelligence than the mind, the small mind. So you must get out of your mind, okay, in order to know Lemuria, all right? And that's the funniest thing, because people often say to me, Faith, you are out of your mind. And I say, yes, thank you for noticing. Because it was when I finally allowed my imagination to expand and to remember the truth of who I am, I was able to experience Lemuria. And we're not separate from it. It's not, because people, we think linear, and so we think that it was a past life, but it's all lives are happening simultaneously. So when you are able to, and when you're willing, and you desire it enough more than you fear it, you can connect with it because it's still alive and exists. It's just that it's a different vibration. So if you're vibrating at a frequency, your eyes, your physical eyes, will allow you to see whatever it is that you are in vibration with. And so just like the Mayans, people think they disappeared, but no, they didn't disappear, okay? They just are a different vibration.
Mhm. Yeah. Because actually, it's interesting. I mean, I do readings. I'm actually a karmic astrologer. So I was just recently reading somebody and saw her blowing a conch shell and asking people together, and that was a feeling I had that she actually existed at this time and space in this ancient civilization. And yet I also truly resonate with what you're saying, because it's an energy that is in the now as well. It's almost like it did exist, it still exists on a different level or a different frequency.
Exactly, and everything is frequency. And so this is what, in raising your consciousness, the only way, and this is why I help people do the chakra clearings, because when you clear the energy that is still, I give you an example. It's like when you're doing an oil change for your car. If you go in and you want your car to run better, okay, they first have to remove the old, gunky, thick oil. If you just added the new oil in, is the car going to perform any better? Mm-hmm. So the same thing goes for us. If you're still holding on to these old cellular pain and hurt and so forth, whether it be this lifetime or other lifetimes, okay, it doesn't matter, because cellularly the memories are actually in our unconscious, helping us to act out of that, even though we don't know why we're doing it. So that's why people that are in habitual patterns as far as relationships come lifetime after lifetime in order to address these patterns and to rise above them. So it's very important you get to your subconscious, because that's what's actually driving you, and you've got to bring it forward and make it conscious. That's the healing part. I don't heal people. They heal themselves. All I do is hold the vibration and frequency in order for them to see very clearly. So I kind of give the example of, if you go into a dark room and you want to turn on the light to see, but you can't find the light switch. So you're roaming around the room feeling for it, and then you finally give up because you're tired, and you sit down and you go, well, my eyes are kind of adjusted to the light, sort of, kind of. And then I come in and turn on the light switch, and then you say, oh my gosh, I can see, this is so great. And so I basically show people how to get to their internal light switch. Because once you turn it on for yourself, and it is a choice for you to turn it on yourself, it's not anybody else externally, it's a matter of your intention. So that's how it had to be for me, that I was willing to remember the truth of who I was. I stated it to the universe. I said, I am ready. I am willing and I am able. Bring it on. And let me tell you, when you ask that, it's just like in the Matrix. Are you going to take the red pill? Because then you can't go back. Because it's so much fun. Life is such a huge adventure, so it's experiential. So why not experience the truth? That's what we came for.
I mean, Faith, what you're saying is so significant actually right now. So what you do is you're actually helping them clear some of the old programs that lingered in their cellular memory, that offered resistance to them seeing where they've been and what they are.
Exactly.
Now,
they don't need me to do it. I want to be very clear about that, okay? Because they can do it themselves as well. All I am is a guide, and there's many, many guides available out there, but they can also do it themselves. It's just that sometimes a guide is supposed to give you go to a foreign country. It's a little bit more quickly and easier to get there. That's the only reason. But they can do it themselves if they're willing, and they don't run across the same stumbling blocks. But I also utilize sound, and they can do that as well. Sound vibrations and different binaural beats and also frequencies can help dislodge these memories and to bring them forward to the surface. So listening to certain types of music is very, very helpful for that as well, and also toning yourself. I have a really simple exercise I can share with your listeners now that can get them started on this. Actually, to go into each of the chakras and do the scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and then bring it all the way through, okay, and tone in each one of the chakras and bring that up. These scales will help open up, and as soon as you do one of those notes, stay and feel into that chakra and feel what feelings are coming up. See, most people don't do this because they really don't want to feel. They don't want to feel the pain. We get here on this earth, and we say we want to feel everything. It's kind of like that movie City of Angels, where he's an angel, and he is in the etheric realm. But when he comes to earth, the agreement is that he will feel all the feelings. And so we get here, and we say, oh, but I don't want to feel those feelings. I'll feel joy and happiness and this and whatever, but I want to avoid pain. And that's not possible. And it's not what we desired anyways, because it's much easier on this plane of existence, the third dimension, reality perspective, to know the truth of who we are than it is in the etheric realms, in the higher realms, because we have the law of contrast and duality. So when we discover who we are not, it helps us to be able to see clearly who we are. So actually, it's very helpful not only to experience your pain instead of avoid it, but to go really deep into it, because that's where the treasure lies.
I'm going to say, Faith, and I said this in introducing you on this show, my heart was wide open when I heard you speak. Now, I know you're talking about toning and some of the other energy techniques that you use, but even honestly, just your voice is having that exact same effect that it had on me just listening to you speak in the Lilu interview. I just want to make that comment too. I mean, it's not even that. It's even just listening to you speak as well.
Yes. Well,
Something.
it is true because all my whole life, okay, I have been told that about my voice. I mean, people will call me just to hear my answering machine, even if I don't pick up or they know that I'm not here. And they say, I just called to hear you, or it's good to hear your voice. They are very specific about it. And so I know, and I've been shared from my guides, that my voice does hold the codes for remembering of Lemuria consciousness in. And so it's something that it is just a part of me. It's just a vibration, again, of the tone of what it comes out. And that's one of the reasons why I'm coming out in a bigger way now doing these interviews. As I told you earlier, I pretty much was a hermit for 10 years. After I had gone through these very painful experiences of the divorce and the homelessness and bankruptcy and not being accepted. I mean, because as you well can imagine, waking up at this state in a time period where people were not open to this. We're talking about this was the early 90s, and I felt very alone, and so it was very, very painful. And so I actually found myself little by little withdrawing because my light was very strong, and so I ended up, dimming it, and I dimmed it and dimmed it. I stayed out of the view of public for the most part. I even gave up coaching for 4 years in order to just really be, a hermit. And actually, that almost killed me because I was lowered my vibration so much that I could really barely function on this plane of existence. So now times have changed, and I was willing to finally allow myself to share in a very big way and to come out of the spiritual closet and say, listen, take me as I am. And many people don't like it. I mean, even the interviews that I shared on Lilu, many people had some very negative comments about it, and I knew that would happen. Whenever you step forward in the truth, you're going to have that. But now I've learned how to balance it more. It takes a lot of spiritual maturity to be a light holder or way shower. And so I work with many. I've been called a teacher's teacher because I work with many of the way showers that are on the planet at this time and assist them in ways to practically bridge both worlds. And that's why the bridge to Lemuria was born, because it is a bridge, and a bridge is built step by step. We're not going to get there overnight. And so it takes a lot of courage in order to stand in your truth of who you are and to remember the truth of who you are and to embody the divine source in form and to let people know who you are and who they are, because they are afraid, like I was. I was very afraid at the very beginning. I was like, who am I to be this or to think this or to know this? And my ego was really, really fearful.
You are speaking right now to so many of us. Right now, to so many of us. These words really penetrate because there are a lot of people that are not really fulfilled. There are a lot of people that are not really living their life purpose, that are also dimming their light, as you were saying before. And it's only recently, too, that I've noticed that people have just started to open up. And this is really making way for us all to gather together. And that's the essence of the message that you got. And I guess what allowed you to create or moved or motivated you to create Bridge to Lemuria? Like, what was a precursor to that? What, all of a sudden, you moved to Kauai from California, and then you just said, I've got to create Bridge to Lemuria?
Well, it's been building for many years. I wrote a spiritual fairy tale back in the 90s. After I did Oprah, I was on this fast track to this really, big, coaching career success thing that all my agents and everybody around me really were promoting, and it wasn't feeling right. It was like, no, I don't want to go that route now. I really want to go write this fairy tale, and because it was such a calling for me. So it's been calling and calling and calling. That's why I call it my calling, because it wasn't something I figured out. It wasn't something I thought of. It was something I experienced and I felt. Because, see, when you start to remove all of the belief systems, you begin to feel the experiences. And that's why I was saying before that when you do this work, and you've got to be willing to go into the pain. Because for me, like even what I remember about Lemuria was extremely beautiful, but it was also very painful. And so I also remember many of my past lives in cellular where we're carrying that pain, even though we're not conscious of it. And one of the biggest pains that I had was fear of coming out and being seen, because cellularly I remembered being killed many lifetimes. Not only killed, but tortured. And so, therefore, I didn't ever want to come out into the public eye and the public arena, because my cellular memory was so afraid I was my ego that my body would be harmed and that I couldn't show up in this world anymore. And so I was so attached to being in the physical, my ego was anyways, that I didn't want to do it. So I listened to that fear to say, no, play low, play low. But that was really what was killing me. See, when it got to the point when I was in California before I moved to Hawaii, literally, I was 3 days away from death, if not sooner, because I had so much lowered my light and so much denied the truth of who I was to fit in with everybody, or supposedly fit in, which, of course, isn't even possible, but it was my ego's notion of, like, playing small so that, I really wouldn't be hurt. But actually, that's what was hurting me. When we follow the ego, and the ego says, come here, let's avoid this pain, it actually takes us into more pain. But that's not bad, because pain, of the ego is the way we turn back to God or source energy. So if we get in enough pain, that's why I ask people, how much pain are you in? Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Are you in enough pain that you're willing to finally live life differently? And for me, it took a lot of pain. Let me tell you, I was not like a quick learner in that department. It had to happen. So the universe said, okay, you're not listening. You're still not listening. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Because I needed to finally take a look and say what I was doing wasn't working. It would never work. So I had to surrender to the truth. And that surrender... And I actually did this, and people will probably laugh about this, but it was very effective. I got down on my hands and knees, and I took a white handkerchief, and I said, I surrender. I surrender. Oh. And it was a symbology for me, because I was so, stubborn to do it my way, my ego's way, that I thought I knew how it was supposed to look. And surrendering takes courage. It takes so much courage to be vulnerable, to finally say, okay, instead of my will be done, how about thy will be done? Thy meaning my higher self, because my higher self is God. So God is not separate from us. So it's not that what God wants me to do, like God is outside of me or source is outside of me. It's higher self. And when I turned over to my higher self the reins and said, okay, you lead us now. And I parented my ego, the frightened little inner child that I was, and spiritually immature. Because, see, that's our culture. Our culture is very spiritually immature. We've grown up physically, and emotionally and spiritually and mentally we're very immature. And a lot of people don't like to hear one say that. But I was very undisciplined. And so when I did my work with source energy, one of the things that was told to me is, ye have little faith. And it actually was true. I didn't. I only had faith when things were going my way. And so I had to be humbled. I chose to be humbled. It's no have to. I chose to because I desired this lifetime to know the truth of who I am. And so you must hunger for the truth more than you fear the consequences. Yeah. And that's really, really important to recognize that. Because if you are letting fear, rule your life, you will only have the life of the 3D dimension, and you can never open up to the consciousness of heaven on earth or Lemuria on earth.
Right. Well, that's intense, and it brings me to your mission. I saw on your page that your mission is to hold the light for souls to find their way out of darkness to home again. And, it's very interesting because some people are open, but they're not sure if they feel the Lemurian energy or not even sure if they had a past life in Lemuria. After that energy clearing, what do you do or what do you say to perhaps jog their memory?
Well, see, the thing is that they will remember when they're ready to remember. And I always tell people to be careful what they ask for, because if they are not even dealing well in this world with this consciousness, to be able to open up to all the other consciousness, it's kind of like going into the department store and seeing 27 TVs at the same time. Which one do you focus on? Right? So everybody wants to come to me for past lives and this and that. I say, well, let's deal with this in the now right now. Let's do that, okay? And remember means again, and become member of the whole. Oh. And in remembering, you once again choose unity consciousness over ego consciousness, because ego consciousness is about separation. So the 3D realm of consciousness is a perspective. It's not worse than the fifth dimension. It's not lower than the fifth dimension. It's a different perspective. It's just different. So when you get all you can get from the 3D, okay, and it has brought you these lessons, or the new word I'm using now, which I love, is called blessings and lessons. Lessons that this really challenging perspective brings you, because it's such a gift to be here. And I used to not think that. I just wanted to get back to Lemuria. That's all I ever wanted to do. It's like, just let me get into heaven again. I want to get out of here. But actually, when I realized that life was a gift and that I could not know the truth of who I am without going through it, then I could settle into, wow, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Mm-hmm. So if you're not having these memories right now, that's good, because you are exactly where you're meant to be. And as soon as you are having the urge to do the clearing, that's why I tell people that finally find me. So you would not have found me unless you prayed for it, because certainly no one is going to choose, especially me, for a teacher unless they're really ready to know the truth. And so therefore, you will not go, okay, just like Neo in the Matrix. He was up every night searching. He was looking, and that's the reason why he found. So it's recognizing that you are indeed ready and that you do have the courage, okay? And you've got to take it in small baby steps. Because if you, I'm not a big proponent of instant enlightenment, because our nervous systems are finely calibrated. And just like Neo in the Matrix, he had to lay there for about 2 months in a fetal position, and I don't know too many people that could really do that. Or like Eckhart Tolle, he was on the park bench for 3 years, and Byron Katie was in a mental institution for several years. So, people say, I want instant enlightenment, and it's like, do you really? Because we're still navigating this plane of existence, and perhaps it may be easier for your nervous system. And if you ask for what is the best and highest good for your soul and everyone evolved. Then when you surrender and allow the universe to work through you, then all of the experiences in your life will lead you to that. And that's where the trust comes in. And the trust with the universe is the foundation that everything is built on. If you do not have trust in a relationship, any relationship, whether it be with yourself or the universe or your partner or friend, you have nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So trust is the foundation, and most people are not trusting. They're actually not trusting because the ego has led them down this path and it can't be trusted. And so therefore it's like, okay, going back in and learning, and all that learning is really remembering or unlearning everything that we were taught. So we have to unlearn everything we were taught. And then little by little it'll come up in your consciousness, and it's not anything that you have to try to do. There's no trying involved.
Yeah. I like the way that you answered this question. It makes a lot of sense to me. And it would be a shock to one's system. They'd almost think they were going insane.
Even in baby steps, there were moments of insanity that I had. I mean, I've had many, many spiritual and mystical experiences. I talked about several of them in the Lilu interview, but there are many more beyond that. And I didn't have anyone to talk to about it, and the people I did talk to about it, and I said, have you ever experienced this? They were like, no. Oh, my God, that's so weird. And so I stopped telling people because it was like, what is wrong with me? And I really did. My ego was telling me there's something wrong with you. And don't go down that door. Don't go and don't go and look in there because, you know, it might kill you. But actually it was the opposite. As I surrendered to these experiences, and little by little, I did start to share them with people, and they said, oh, my God, I've had the experience. I had no one to talk to. And now we're all coming out of the closet and saying, oh, that's why this is resonating with people, because they're for so long have been kept quiet because they thought they were crazy too.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. You know, as the way I was asking the last question, and that spurred on that brilliant answer that made perfect sense, I was asking about how you jog somebody's memory because I was interested in hearing a little bit about what life in ancient Lemuria was like. Like, so as someone like you, who's a reader of the AKASHIC records, what do you see in some of the lives reflecting a Lemurian existence? Like, what were the people doing? Where were they?
Well, that's such a good question, and just even having you ask it puts a smile on my face because this is where our natural state of existence is. And Lemuria is a space of complete unity, so there's no separation. So we communicate with people telepathically. Lemuria, okay, and I'm going to really go out there with this one, so just letting everybody know, because actually Lemuria, many of us that are listening here are actually starseeds who helped to seed Lemuria as the first civilization on Earth. And so I remember, okay, when I came to Kauai, okay, which is the heart of Lemuria, I remembered the truth of when we came here as starseeds to seed this earth. Because humanity, okay, this experience, many will call it an experiment, okay, is an expression of love. And what occurred is through the evolutionary period of this culture, it was stunted. And so many of the starseeds, why we remember Lemuria in the pure essence that it was created, it has shifted. This earth is not a reflection of the Lemurian consciousness. And we're returning to that by remembering the truth of who we are and holding that frequency so that the DNA will be activated in them to evolve, because each person has that ability to evolve. Now, not everybody will evolve. Not everybody will ascend. Mm-hmm. It's all a matter of willingness. So Lemuria, for most people, would shock people, because, like, even for me, who in the Lemurian times I was a mermaid. Now, mer people, actually, most people think of them as, again, being like the human, but they're not, okay? Mer people are etheric beings, okay? And it's a matter of being able to shapeshift into human form and to etheric form. And so this is why all the mysticism about mermaids, that they're, very tricky and this and that, kind of like the fairy realm, okay? All the realms that are can appear and disappear at will are called tricky by the humans, because they can't see and they don't have that experience, and so therefore there's been a lot of fear put towards that energy. But when you're here in Kauai, and the other Hawaiian islands as well, because that is really the birthplace, you can feel that energy, and so it awakens people and their third eye. And so, as I mentioned in the interview with Lilu, the Hawaiian islands are all the chakras. So each of the islands corresponds with a different chakra in our system, and the big island is the root chakra. And so people that are drawn to the big island will go there, and Pele, the goddess of the big island, will help in, and you don't even have to go there, but it does help to actually have its amplification of the energies when you're actually in the physical. But anybody can do this by just meditating with the different chakras. And so each island corresponds with the chakras, and Kauai happens to be the pineal gland. And so in Hawaii, you have an ability to tap into these energies, and you can do it just in any meditation, or just even from pictures, or listen to the sounds. If you listen to Hawaiian chanting, okay? And the kahunas, okay, that live in the Hawaiian islands, they were all, of course, ancient Lemurians as well, and they have the memories, and they were passed down telepathically. And they still have connection, because if you come here, or anybody that's ever been to Hawaii, you can sit at a mountain and you can commune with the mountains here. They talk to you, the trees. We have a babbling brook. It's the same in Lemuria, okay? Everything spoke when you had the ears to listen. The flowers, the flowers have the Devic energy. And this is why plant medicine is the only medicine. And when you know how to use it, it's anything in nature, in our culture, is real. Anything that has been man-made, okay, is not real. And so this is why all the pharmaceutical industry, it has actually taken over, and it has prevented us from actually knowing the truth of who we are. And when you get back to nature and you spend time, so when I was almost dead and I came to Kauai, I was born again. Because I came and I spent time and healed in nature. And nature will lead you to the truth of who you are. And so then you also will have experiences. Now, I know you're interviewing Bashar next week, and he did a great video about Hawaii and the amplification. So when I say to people that they must start to do their own internal work first, because when you come to the islands, it actually amplifies whatever's going on for you vibrationally. So we always say to people that come here that you must really listen to Mama Kauai, because otherwise she will shake you up, and she does. And so with all the islands, they each have, for whatever chakras you're feeling drawn to or requiring some healing on. So I always suggest to people to go in and to do their internal clearing of their chakras, and sometimes coming to these certain places will help amplify. And it's not just Hawaii, because there's other places that have the Lemurian consciousness throughout the world as well. There's many parts in California, Mount Shasta, and there's places in South America as well. But the concentrated energies are here in Hawaii, the Hawaiian Islands.
Well, let me tell you something, Faith. I mean, I am drawn like a magnet to even interviewing people that are on Kauai. You know, I've talked to Mirabai, and also even so I'm having another interview with Tom Lesher, who is also a friend, and it's very interesting because that area, and just even Kauai specifically, I've known people that tried to move there, and their situation, I mean, Kauai seemed to chew them up and spit them out.
Yes,
they had to leave.
That's exactly what we say, is that, listen, you got to be really willing to come here and to surrender. So that's why I say to people, when you are very aware, you're going to be very mature in handling your spiritual involvement, and you're going to do it a wise way. I really encourage it. When I first began, I'm so happy that I took the baby steps. I really am, because of course, I didn't know any other way, and there wasn't really anybody that was talking about this at that particular point in time. And so one of the most important thing that I was able to develop is my meditation and connection with my higher source, and being able to discern the voice inside for what was for my best and highest good. And so when you ask for that, okay, ask and ye shall receive. Ask where you're led to throughout the world. It may be a different place altogether, okay, that will actually lead you to another place. Like, have you ever read the book Celestine Prophecy?
Yes, years ago.
Okay, because that was one of the first books that came out, and I was really living that at the time, but I didn't know it, where all the puzzle pieces were coming together. And like you said, you have the urge to interview people from here. Lilu also, too. She kept being drawn to Kauai for some reason. You know, other people are drawn to the other islands, but she was interviewing people here because by the time people have made
Lilu
it here...
said that was her favorite place. I interviewed Lilu,
yes,
and then she said that this was her favorite place to be. I said, you've been everywhere all over the world. Where do you feel the most at home? And this is where she was most at home in Kauai.
Exactly, because the people who were part of a soul family. When I say to people the bridge to Lemuria and coming and awakening, we're soul family. We remember each other, okay? And this is where a lot of people don't want to accept that they really are the way showers or star seeds. It's very challenging to the ego to say, wow, I'm much bigger than my small self. Like my name prior was Vicky, and when I changed the name to Faith because of my experience, my family didn't like it very much, and my friends refused to call me by my new name because they thought it was weird. And I said, well, you don't understand, because you wanted to keep me small in that role I was playing, but I'm much greater than that. And my true self, when I took on the name Faith, it wasn't for my personality, it was to hold the vibration of faith. And in order to have a spiritual journey, you must take a leap of faith. And for me, coming here and moving, people say, you're moving to an island in the Pacific. Are you crazy? And leaving all of my family and friends, not knowing anybody on this island. And I moved here in 8808.
Wow.
And that is a gateway number. And, of course, many people will understand the frequencies of numbers and how certain numbers speak to them and call to them. So when you start paying attention to all the clues, just like in the Celestine Prophecy, these clues will lead you. And so don't try to force yourself. There's no trying involved, again. It's just being. And so when you're just being true to yourself and say, I have no idea, it doesn't make any sense, but I feel the urge to go here or to do this, and so it's a resonance, and truth has a resonance. It's like a sound, and this is going back to the vibration again. That's why I use sound healing, because I use vibrations to assist people in awakening their cellular memory. So if they're ready and they're feeling stuck, the sound can move that. That's why starting with just even very simply doing the do-re-mi exercises and moving that energy, and then going in and meditating and going into your chakras and being able to meditate on each one and bringing that forward, it will lead you to have the urge to go and meet with this person or have this person as a guide or go here or do this or whatever. It will tell you everything you need to know if you're willing to listen, even though it doesn't make any sense.
Wow. You know, Faith, it's so interesting. And before even we got on to this question, and there was some alluding to the connection between the Pleiadians and Lemurians and the Syrians and the Lemurians seeding Lemuria, the star seeds. Yes. And I heard that in that conversation. But I want to even take it a step further. I want to talk to you about dolphins. I love dolphins. I'm an artist. I draw dolphins constantly. I can't stop. Dolphin swimming, dolphin faces. So I want to know about the dolphin energy. I want to know how the dolphins and the whales are connected to Lemuria and Lemurian time.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up because I love dolphins. Of course, they're a mermaid's best friend. And not only that, but even when I was a little girl, I went to the Brookfield Zoo in Chicago, and there was a dolphin there named Vicky, and of course that was my name at birth. And so I connected to this dolphin right then and there. And I've actually gone swimming with the dolphins several times, but on the Big Island they're very plentiful, and they are definitely starseeds embodied, and the same with the whales. The whales are the record keepers. And so that's another reason why they're drawn, to the Hawaiian Islands, all right? And in fact, they're still here right now, which is really unusual. They're usually gone by this time, but they're still here, and they hold this energy, okay? They are our, there's not enough amazing words I could say about the dolphins and whales. And the fact, that's why so many people are so offended when this killing has gone on with them, because it's our brothers and sisters, our star brothers and sisters, and we know it and we can feel it. And so actually in a former life I was a whale, and so I've been a record keeper for many, many lifetimes as well. So I really relate to them. And so that's the other reason why even coming out to Hawaii and being in the waters here is so healing. They are healing waters because that energy from the dolphins and the whales are permeated through, and water is a conductor. So, and remember, and this is another part, cellularly, the word aloha, is much more than just a word. It is, again, it is a sound, it's a vibration, and the ha is breath, and it's the one breath, that we're all part of the one breath, and remembering that. And so it's spoken here millions of times a day throughout the islands, and so the vibration in the waters and the love. In fact, the Kauai island is actually called the Garden State, but it's also, or the Garden Isle, but it's also the island of love. In fact, Elvis Presley even wrote a song about it, calling it that, because you can feel the love vibration. And so our brothers and sisters, the whales and the dolphins, are holding this vibration and remembrance, and you can commune with them. And so the fact that you're drawn to them, they have a message for you. And so you can communicate with them, in meditation or in person, It's just, again, amplifying those energies. But they were also help seed this humanity, and that's why they're so interested and so helpful, and they're willing to be here, and that's why we must cease the killing of them.
Oh yeah, I know that makes me, and it makes me so sad when I even see them in captivity and doing tricks and being used in this way. But it's interesting.
Well, they've agreed to that, though. I just want to let you know, don't feel sorry for them because they've
agreed
to it. Yes. They have because see, we cannot feel sorry for anything. That's a really good point. I'm glad you.
Okay, I mean, I understand with the duality and the victim consciousness, and they're not going to take on that.
Exactly. We're out of humanity, and they recognize, and everybody that's doing everything that they're doing here in third dimension is perfect for their evolution, for choices in seeing it. Yes, is there another way, and can we wake up? Yes, absolutely, okay? But there's nothing wrong, okay? Remember that in the divine plan, all is well, and we are just experiencing whatever we require for our evolutionary growth.
Mm-hmm.
So the good news is we can't mess it up. We have eternity for this. We have eternity for this. And remember, time's an illusion, so therefore it's not like. However, the thing is that when you hold that higher consciousness, you cannot accept any of this other. And as more people hold that higher consciousness, we will vibrate out of that, and we can return to Lemuria. We can return to heaven on earth. And getting back to your question earlier, I didn't want to shortcut that because I love talking about Lemuria. This is why everybody related to the movie Avatar, because that's Lemuria. Okay, we were tall beings. We communicated telepathically. In fact, part of that movie was even filmed here on Kauai, so a lot of the scenery and that you can tell. But the banyan trees, the tree of light, okay, these trees are also our record keepers. And when you can commune with the trees, they're just as alive as the dolphins and whales. And when we cut them down, just like in the Amazon, when we're cutting them down, therefore we're losing that connection. So that's why even that movie featured that. So it's like we must preserve that connection, because there are, in many cases, our elders that are holding this so we can wake up and remember the truth, just like they did for the guy in the movie Avatar, because it required him leaving behind that old world, his old crippled body.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a metaphor. All these movies that are out there now are metaphors, okay? Inception, that we're lost within a dream within a dream. It's time to wake up. Matrix, wake up. Everything's about wake up.
Waking up, yes.
And to wake up to the truth of who you are, and that when he had to wake up in the movie, it required him going and riding the dragon, the fiercest dragon. So then I say to people, that's a metaphor. You've got to face your biggest fear, your dragon. What is your personal dragon that you have in your life? Mine was coming out in front of people in a live situation, interviews. As I said, going on Oprah and finding out there was 10 million people live, okay?
Live.
Live. It was the only day of the year she didn't tape it, which was perfect, because the universe just conspired to have me face my fear. And I love that about the universe. The universe is so benevolent and so beautiful, and when you understand and have that connection that the universe has your back, that everything is for our favor, that everything is good, every situation, if you think you're losing something out of your life, you're not losing anything. That's just of the ego, that you're being made way for something new and exciting and beautiful and wonderful in your soul's evolution. But if you fight it and you resist that change, because to the ego change, feels like death, and when you face death, and the Indians have a statement that, we must die 1,000 times, is that you go into the fire, you go into that death of who you once were, and you are like the phoenix rising out of the ashes and remembering the truth of who you are. And that's why I don't have fear like most people do any longer. That's why I've gone through the situations where I have been in near-death experiences many times, and I recognize there is no death. So what is there possibly to fear? It's only attachment to this physical world, and that's why we have the world we have, because people are attached to it. And once they let go of that attachment, because attachment is where the pain is at, and once you let go of the pain, you can then experience joy. And joy is the highest vibration, and that's what we're here to experience. And when enough people vibrate at the frequency of joy, we will have Lemuria. We will have heaven on earth. But to the ego, joy feels painful. And joy is a vibration.
You were saying before. Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
You got me thinking. I'm thinking and thinking and thinking as you're speaking. And you were saying before that some people might not ascend. And then there are some of us that are headed to a whole, like, for example, there are some of us that are seeing things one way, and some people that are seeing things very, very different. So will there be these pockets of people, like a group of people that are perhaps high vibrational people, star seeds that have awakened, way showers? Will they gather in spots like Kauai and other high vibrational places geographically? And then will there be pockets of people that are quite contrary, holding on to the old paradigm?
It's already
and
happening
the fear.
now. It's already
and then we're
now.
seeing this expand. This is what seems to be happening, isn't it?
Yes, and there's growing a greater contrast between the worlds. Okay, so it's as you're bridging the two worlds, and that's what I really want people to know, that I understand. I was a single mom with 2 little girls. I understand the practical ways I've got to earn a living. I've got to function in my daily life as I'm transitioning, okay? And we are in transition right now, just like Gaia, Mother Earth, is giving birth to us at a higher state of consciousness. We're giving birth to our own self, okay, and this higher state of consciousness, and the birthing process is messy, and the birthing process is in steps. And just like a woman who is going through birth, the transition period of birth is very intense, and that's what's happening right now. It's very intense. The energies and the photon belt moving in to bring in all this light from the solar flares and everything that's going on now with the eclipse tomorrow as well. And it's really focusing all of this light, and cellularly where it's penetrating us and it's shaking everybody up. And either some will look and grow from it, and others will perish from it. Some people will leave this plane of existence altogether because it's too much for their nervous systems, because unless you've done your work, it will be too much for your nervous system, okay? And it will just, it's kind of like putting a 220-volt, electricity into a 110-volt socket. And so therefore, it's like I don't try to convince anybody of anything. So people that are awakening to this, they want their whole family and friends, and they spend a lot of energy trying to convince or talk to other people. Don't do that. First of all, it's not a wise use of the energy, okay, and you need that energy for yourself. So I always tell people, when you try to go save others, save yourself first. So turn that hand around, put it right on your forehead, and save yourself. Don't be interested in what other people are doing. Take it in now. Go inside. This is spiritual journey. Is an inward process.
It's fabulous, Faith, and even more fabulous. Here you were, as you said, you were almost a hermit for a while, and just when you were needed, because I have to tell you again, I have a very powerful intuition, or I have some powerful guides, and they described you as the ambassador of Lemuria, the ambassador. You're kind of there, and you're at the gate sort of greeting people and calling people or signaling to people. And it was a bigger vision that I had of you. So the timing and then awakening to this call at this particular time when people are inundated with light, it's certainly no accident.
Yes, that brings really tears of joy into my heart right now, I have to tell you, Helane, because this is my purpose, and I'm living my purpose, and I know it with every cell in my body.
Oh, and you're doing it. It's such, I think about that site. I keep looking at Bridge to Lemuria. 1 minute it has less than 10,000 views. The next minute it's up to 15,000. The next minute it's like, oh, it's over 20,000. I mean, and in a very short span of time, people they start off, they hear the word Lemuria, they're a little bit curious, and again, they're exploring that unity consciousness, and there's a lot to the telepathic communication, and they start to realize in their own life, they're sensing when people are going to call, and they're feeling when they're going to run into people. It's like, it's also, people are actually expanding and evolving at record speed.
It's so true, and it just has been such a delight. And, like, for me, it's like this big cosmic reunion. And everybody I know, they're going, I feel like I know you. I say, yes, you do know me, and I feel like I know you. And, you know, it's really interesting because one of the things that we did at the when Lemuria actually ceased to exist is we offered up a song called Auld Lang Syne.
Oh, yeah.
To play as a song to hear, vibration. Again, it was all vibration to hear as a remembrance of us all meeting again. And in my spiritual fairy tale about Lemuria, which is coming out in the summer, it will be published on my website, and that's coming also too. You know, all these years I never even had a website. Like I said, I really just am getting, you know, it all out there now because the calling is so strong. But in there, I talk about that each person has a symbol on their palms, okay, either an A or an M, and some people have both, okay, and the M for Lemuria, Mu, okay, Mu being the actual continent, the heart of Lemuria, and that those that are ready, and you can't, like, not know it's a calling. Like I said, it's when you're willing to listen. It's like that urge like you have is so strong that even though it may not make any sense, you're going to follow it anyways. And as I explained to you earlier, I don't give a lot of interviews. I'm only to the ones that I'm called to. The same for anything else, because this is not about marketing, you know, anything. This is about following your highest joy and calling, and that's why I call myself a minister of joy, because joy is the high vibration frequency that we all are. It's our natural state of being. So if you're not experiencing joy, you are not in your natural state. But joy being as a vibration, it takes practice to hold that. And so this call from the Bridge to Lemuria of all of us to get together, it brings such joy when we meet and recognize each other, because we remember again, become a member of the whole. We are a collective consciousness. The ego can't understand that. Like, people are, you know, Abraham Hicks, they say, wow, I really resonate with what they're saying, or Bashar, because we are Abraham Hicks. We are Bashar. We are the collective consciousness. We are not individuals. And it's so hard for the ego to see, because they're seeing through the eyes and saying, yeah, but you're separate, you're separate, you're separate. It's like, no. When people come to me and they hear me now, okay, all that I am is giving a voice in the physical realm from their higher self to themselves. I am not separate from you or anybody else. So the fact that you resonate with it, it's just you're resonating with the part of yourself that you denied.
Yeah.
And now we don't have to deny the truth anymore, and instead to embrace it and to say we are one. We are collective. We are the divine. And now we can allow ourselves to be truly who we are, and it's going to be talk about a celebration and party of the century, and we have the next couple of years to practice. And I really want to end with this statement, because I know we're probably running out of time.
Let me tell you, you're like in such perfect sync. And that was going to be my next question a second ago. You're just reading my mind. We're working telepathically.
Yes, we
are. I was
are.
about to say I'd like a closing message, but then every little thing you say, I have the chills. I am so
we'll
lifted.
do part
I am
two
so
one of these days. Good.
I am just so I'm in another state just talking to you. And then you said it was a cosmic reunion. I went to a festival called the Cosmic Reunion, and that's where I met this Amareya Dream Seed.
Oh, yes,
and
I
who
know
was
him
from Kauai.
Yes,
I was like,
exactly.
Wow. Everywhere I go, I keep I have all these synchronicities. But as you're speaking in this conversation, it would be like one thing after the next. I have the chills, and then I have my finger on this question. Say, well, we need a closing message, and then you come out with, well, I know that we're running out of time.
and it's what's really funny is because I'm not even anywhere near a clock. I'm in my altar space, actually underneath a pyramid that we have built for focusing our energies. And again, amplifying these energies, because by doing this interview and coming together, our energies, your, mine, and everyone else that's included, are amplifying this vibration and message to everyone. And that's what's so beautiful about this, that even if people are not able to hear this radio show, that they will get this message somehow. But in the closing message is this.
Yes.
That we must practice being who we are. We're out of practice with it. And so this is where going from the third to the higher dimensions is that in the higher dimensions we will have instant manifestation. We are creators, and this creative energy that we're recognizing of who we are, we will then be able to direct wisely and using it purposely to create the world we desire. So we're creating it together. It's not like there's a place and it's already created. When people say, oh, I know what it's going to be like or whatever, it's like, no, they don't know, because we're creating it. We're in the evolutionary spiral of creating it. And so it's an adventure. It's all new and exciting. And when you tap into that, then you want to be very aware of that our thoughts create reality, okay? And then when we speak our thoughts, that sound amplifies it. So we must be very, very aware of what our thoughts are and what we speak, because that will amplify, whether it be positive or negative, and there's no judgment on good or bad. It's just that in the positive, you will experience more of the truth of who you are and the Lemurian consciousness, and the negative, you will experience less of who you are. And sometimes people need to experience less over and over and over to amp up the desire in order to feel more joy. So not to be judgmental on yourself, but just to be more aware. And the more aware you are of your I am state, okay, and this is what the practice comes in, of expanding your consciousness, of expanding your I am state, because when you do that, then the negative energies cannot latch on or attach to you. That's why you can walk through this world, and when people look at my life and say, oh, it's easy for you, Faith. You live in a beautiful temple in Kauai overlooking the most mystical mountain in this universe, and you have such this blessed life and so forth. The reason is that my outward manifestation is just reflecting my inward knowingness of who I am. Anyone can have that. I went from bankruptcy and homelessness. That's what I'm here to show people, that I'm in very practical steps, not pie in the sky, oh, I wish or I dream or whatever. It's like these are the things that you can have whatever you desire. Are you willing to do whatever is necessary? Are you willing to be? First you got to be it, and then you have it. So you behave your way into a new reality. So the practice comes in being who you are, and we're out of practice with it. So when I heard this saying a long time ago, don't just do something, sit there. And I laughed about that, because it was like I was always doing, busy. And then when I said, wow, okay, I'm going to sit here for a minute. I'm going to sit in the silence. I'm going to go into nature and sit and just allow my awareness to surface, that it didn't require me doing anything, that I had all the answers all along.
Yeah.
And am I willing to go in and hear the truth? And so the biggest lie that we tell ourselves is that we don't know. So whenever I work with people and they tell me I don't know, I say, quit lying to yourself because you do know. So begin by telling yourself the truth, and the truth will set you free from the delusion. So that's that. And I so appreciate you following your dream and your joy in providing these interviews for people, and that's why I resonated to be here today to share with you. And I thank you for the opportunity to share this message and the joy that I receive from experiencing this. And I am very excited to go further and to meet you in the physical someday too.
Yeah. Oh, you will. You really will. And first of all, that was a brilliant closing message. And Faith Spina, I love you, love you, love you. I am so grateful that you agreed to come on and speak with me. It's more than just, this was personal. This was personal to me. This was important to me. I seriously wanted to connect with you. Every single question I asked was stuff deep down in the core of my soul that I wanted to know. And I really sincerely wanted to put it out there for all of my soul family that can resonate with this too and needs to hear this too. And there's something, again, about your voice, because I can't tell you how I feel right now talking to you directly. I just feel so uplifted. I feel extremely clear. I feel energized. I just feel happy. So, it's with so much gratitude.
That is, I have to say, that is a blessing, because I feel the same way. And so what a joy that is to be able to share that with you and others. And I would love to continue our conversation. There's so much more. This is just the beginning. And I welcome everybody with open arms into the heart of Lemuria with us as we go into this most exciting, exhilarating, adventuresome experiences of our lives.
Yes, and for our listeners at home who have fallen in love with Faith Spina the way I have, you can drop her a line at faithinhawaii88@gmail.com, or you can visit her Facebook page called Bridge to Lemuria. You're wonderful, and I thank you again. And, of course, we'll be in touch. So I also want to thank everyone for tuning into the Helane Lipson Show, Embracing What is Real, on In5D Radio. Yes, next Wednesday, on May 15th at 8 p.m., you can tune in to my interview with Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar. And for more information on my upcoming programs, you can visit my website at www.insightsbyhelane.com. Till we meet again, remember, what you believe is what you create. Bye, everybody. Namaste.
Namaste. In Lakesh.